All right, we're ready to start Module 2, Lesson 4, Student Page D. We're picking up from where we left off in the last lesson. So now we just did a whole bunch of multiplication. Now we're going to do a whole bunch of division just to make sure everybody has us down before we move on to the next topic. So each page, there's 2 pages, has 6 problems on it. So how about we do the first 4, you do the next 2, then we do the first 4, you do the next 2. That way you get some practice in. And if you want more practice, you can always stop the video and practice on your own first. So as a review, the second number always goes outside. It's the divisor because this is 1.6 being divided by 0.4. And the 1.6 will be the dividend. It goes underneath the division sign. And we learned in our last video that you cannot divide by a decimal. Not when you're doing it by hand. So to turn it into a whole number, which means the decimal has to be at the end, it must move 1 to the right. But if the divisor has the decimal place move 1 to the right, then the dividend must do the same. So whatever you do to one, you have to do the other, because remember, this is really a fraction, 1.6 over 0.4, and the rule is always the same. Whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. So then the big hint that I gave you on the last videos is that rewrite the problem so you have a nice clean problem and no questions about where the decimals are. 4 has now become a whole number, and so has 16. So we're really just dividing 16 by 4 on this problem. Decimals at the end, so we don't have to worry about it. 4 goes into 16 4 times. So there's my answer. Just 4. Not 0.4, nothing. You don't put the decimals back in. You keep it where it lands after you move them both. And it's at the end, so that means I don't need to write it. For number 7, 1.5 into 22.5. Again, we're dividing by a decimal, which is not allowed. So to turn it into a whole number and have its decimal at the end, the decimal place must move 1 right again. Therefore, this one must move 1 right again. So our new problem with the new decimal places, now they're both whole numbers. The outer number is 15, which has to be a whole number, and it ends up that the divisor is also the whole number 225. And then we just do regular long division. 15 goes into 22 once, so put the 1 above the 2. 1 times 15 is 15. Draw the line, change the sign. 22 minus 15, gonna have to borrow 12 to make that 1. So 12 minus 5 is 7. This is 0, so we don't need to write it. And then we bring our next number down, 5. 15 goes into 75, I believe 5 times, but let's just test it to make sure. 25, carry your 2, 5, 6, 7. There we go. So 15 goes into 75 5 times evenly. Therefore, my answer, remember the decimal place is here, so that means it's here, is just the whole number 15. No decimals needed since the decimal's at the end. And not all of them come out as whole numbers. You'll see some on this page that don't, but these first few, yes. Okay, for number 2, we have 0.4 as the divisor, always the second number, into 16. And remember, 16's decimal place is at the end, so if you need to put it there to remind yourself, do it. And then to turn this into a whole number so that I can divide, I need to move it 1 to the right. And to same thing on this one, which means I'm going to have to add a 0. So now this underneath the division bar is now going to be 160 No decimal needed because the decimal falls at the end. So our new problem is 4 into 160. So no decimals, this is just regular whole number division now. 4 goes into 16 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. Draw the line, change the sign. 16 minus 16 is 0. Bring down your next number, 0. And we can't stop, remember. We need a number above the 0. That's why it's important that you put your number in the correct place so you know that you're not done. So 4 goes into 0. 0 times 4 is 0. And there's my answer, 40. And remember, all of these problems can be checked. So you take your answer times the divisor, and you should get the dividend. So shall we do a check here just to show one? So let's do it over here. So the answer to this problem is 40. So these are the two that you're going to multiply, and they should give you that original number. So 40 times 0.4, 0, 16, 1 decimal place. Ding, 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 ding. And there it is. So you take your answer times the divisor, and that should always give you the dividend. So anytime you're not sure you've done it correctly, check your work. So easy to check. Okay, one more and then you guys get a try. So this is 15 into 22.5. So the first thing you should notice, hopefully, is that there's no decimal out here. That means there's nothing I need to do. I just start dividing. The one thing you do need to know is that the decimal comes straight up on a division problem, so you can put it there and get it ready. So no movement here because it's not a decimal. That means no movement here. So the decimal comes straight up, and then you just start and divide like normal. 15 goes into 22 once. 1 times 15 is 15. Draw the line, change the sign. 12, 2, make it a 1, so that's 7. Bring the 5 down, and we already discovered up here that 15 times 5 was 75. So there's my answer, 1.5. So the only place you put the decimal is in the answer. So you don't need any decimals on this part of it, you just need it in the answer. And it goes straight up from where it was at. Okay, here's 2 for you to practice on, so go ahead and shut off your video, try those 2 on your own, and then join me back so we can check those. Okay, for this first one, oh yay, my divisor does not have a decimal in it, so no moving needed. It's already a whole number, so I start the division process by immediately putting the the decimal place straight up. 4 goes into 1 0 times. 4 goes into 16 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 minus 16 is 0. So I can see your answer should have been 0.4. Remember, all you have to do to check it is multiply these two, and you should get that answer. And on the last one, 1.5 into 2.25. 1.5 is the divisor, 2.25 is the dividend. On this one, we do not have a whole number out here, so to make it a whole number, we move it over once. Which means this one has to be moved right once as well. So here's where the new decimal is. So this problem, when I rewrite it, is now going to be 15 as a whole number because we moved it to the end of the number, and this number is now going to be 22.5. Decimal place comes straight up. So write one, rewrite your new problem. And 15 goes into 22 once. We already did this. And when you subtract, you get 7. And then you bring your next number down 5. And we know 15 goes into 75 5 times. And there's our 0. So my answer for this problem is 1.5. So as you can see, not all of your answers are going to be whole number answers. And your dividend is not always going to be a whole number. The only thing that will always be a whole number after you've done the moving is the divisor. It has to be a whole number, meaning no decimal places before you start dividing. And whatever you do to the divisor, do the same thing to the dividend. Okay, halfway done with the division. So let's go ahead and work on the ones on the next page. Oh, I was just hoping maybe they changed the numbers. No such luck. Okay, so we're still working with the same numbers, just decimals in different places. So our divisor for number 4 is 0.4 into 0.16. So we need to move the decimal one place to make 4 a whole number. So one place here, which puts the decimal in between the 1 and 6. So when we go to rewrite this problem, the divisor is now the whole number 4, and the dividend is 0.1.6. Well, 0.1.6 is really just 1.6. I mean, you could put the 0 in, but that just kind of complicates it. Because you wouldn't say I'm 0.1 years old or my son is 0.1 years old. You would say 1. So that 0 in front of the 1 is not necessary after you move the decimal one place. So decimal goes straight up. 4 goes into 1 0 times. 4 goes into 16 4 times. So that would leave me with 0.4 for my first answer. Okay, next we have 0.15 divided into 2.25. I can see these are both going to become whole numbers. That's nice. That makes it easy because this one is going to need to be moved twice and this one is going to need to be moved twice. So now they both have decimals at the end, meaning they're both whole numbers now. So 15 into 225. We've done this about, what, 4 times on the other page. We got it memorized pretty much. So 15 goes into 22 once. 1 times 15 is 15. Draw the line, change the sign. 22 minus 15 is 7. Bring down the 5. And we know 15 goes into 75 5 times from the last page. So my answer is just the whole number 15. All whole number division there. Once we move both of our decimal places too, we end up with just 15 because the decimal's at the end, which means we don't need to write it. Okay, let's do 2 more and then you guys get a shot. Oh, did they really change the numbers for us? Oh, yay! Yippee! So 0.12 divided into 14.4. So it looks like on this one I'm going to have to move my decimal 2 places to make 12 a whole number. So here's the new number there. So that means I need to move it 2 places here. So 1 place after the 4, 1 place which is going to require a 0. So my new division problem is now 12, the whole number, into 1,440, the whole number. Because both decimals ended at the end. So this is just regular whole number division now. So 12 goes into 14 once, so put your 1 above the 4, the last number you divide into, draw the line, change the sign, 4 minus 2 is 2, and bring down one number. 12 goes into 24 2 times, because 12 times 2 is 24. Draw the line, change the signs, that's 0. And remember, we can't stop there. We still have one place left here. So now we have to say 12 goes into 0, 0 times. So that answer is going to be 120. And one more, and then you guys can practice. So 1.5 into 0.225. So it looks like we're going to have to move our decimal place one place. So that's going to turn into the whole number 15, but if we move this one place, we have to move this one place. So the divisor is going to turn into 2.25. The 0 can now be dropped off because it's a whole number 2. So 15 into 2.25. So my first step is always to bring the decimal straight up. 15 doesn't go into 2. 15 goes into 22 one time. 1 times 15 is 15. Draw the line, change the sign. 22 minus 15 is 7. Bring down the next number. 15 goes into 75 5 times. And that leaves me with an answer of 0.15 or 15 hundredths. Okay, showtime. Go ahead and turn off your video, do those two, and then come back and we'll check them together. Okay, so for this first one, we have 0.12 being divided into 1.44. Looks like we're going to have two whole numbers again because this one needs to be moved 2, which leaves the new decimal here. And so this one needs to be moved 2, which leaves the decimal there. So our new problem is now 12 into 144. No decimals in this answer. So 12 goes into 14 once. 1 times 12 is 12. Draw the line, change the sign. 14 minus 12 is 2. And bring down your next number 4. 12 goes into 24 2 times. So it looks like our quotient, the answer to a division problem is called quotient. Our quotient is 12. Let's just write that to remind us. I know we wrote it in our first module, but it's always good to go over the vocabulary. Sometimes I've had students tell me, I get the math, but I can't understand the directions when I read them on the tests, and that tells me they don't know their vocabulary. So if you can't understand the directions, that means you need to work on vocabulary. So if a problem says find the quotient, you need to know that means divide. Okay, last one. And we're finally done with this. So 0.15 will be my divisor. 22.5 will be my dividend. Looks like we're going to have whole number division again. This one goes over 2 places to make it a whole number. So this one has to go over 2 places, which means I need to add a 0. One place is 5, the second place is 0, so now I have 2 whole numbers. I'll be dividing 15 into 2,250. And then we start these same numbers again. So 15 goes into 22 once. 1 times 15 is 15. Draw the line, change the sign, that is 7. Bring down the next number 5. 15 goes into 75 5 times. Draw the line, change the sign, bring down the next number, which is 0. And yes, we still have to divide once more because we have an empty space there. That's why it's so important where you put your numbers. Always above the last number you're dividing into. Otherwise, you won't know to put a 0 there. So 15 goes into 0 0 times. So that leaves me with a quotient of 150. Okay, so hopefully that was enough practice that you guys feel confident in your long division skills now. So now we're moving on to the most fun part of the chapter. I love this. Page E and page F are so fun. And actually I love page G too. They're good fun, nice and easy, not so heavy as the long division. So this is multiplying by 10, and then the next page, or powers of 10, and the next page is going to be dividing by powers of 10. So on the test, and I give you, I think 6 of these on the test, I have students that sit and do all the multiplication out. That tells me they didn't study this page and the next page, because you don't have to do any multiplication or any division on these next 2 pages. When you're working with powers of 10, you just have to multiply. When you multiply by powers of 10, you just have to move the decimal however many zeros there are. So 3 has a decimal right here. When I multiply by 10, I move the decimal 1 place to the right because the number's getting larger, so that makes it 30. And when I multiply by 100, its decimal place is there. It has 2 zeros, which means I move the decimal 2 places to the right. So that's where the number 300 comes in. When I multiply by 1,000, I take 3 and I move the decimal place 3 places to the right. And that makes it 3,000. So with whole numbers, everybody's like, oh, you just add a 0. Oh, you just add 2 zeros. And so on. Well, not true with decimals. That's why you need to understand multiplying by 10. Yes, it does add a 0 when it's a whole number, but what you're really doing is moving the decimal 1 place to the right. 100, 2 places to the right. 1,000, 3. Because you need to know that when you get to decimals. You can't just add a 0. This answer is not 3.10. Ever. So you'd follow what we did. Multiplying by 10 moves the decimal place 1 to the right. So this number turns into 31. No 0 in sight. So see why I said you can't just think, oh, add a 0. That doesn't work with decimals. So it might work with the whole numbers, but not with decimals. So multiplying by 10 moves the decimal 1 right. Multiplying by 100 moves the decimal 2 to the right. 1, 2. So this is going to be 310. Multiplying by 1,000 moves the decimal 3, because there's 3 zeros, so 3 places to the right. So 1 was the first place, and then we got to fill in 2 zeros, so 3,100. But I can't tell you how many tests I graded last semester, and the students did all the work for this. They did these big, long multiplication problems. No. When you multiply by 10 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000, all you have to do is move decimal places. You do not have to do the multiplication. Okay, so this is yours to practice. So follow what we did here in the middle column and see if you can get those 3 answers. So stop your video and then come back when you are finished. Okay, so 0.57. When I multiply that by 10, I move the decimal place 1 to the right. So that turns this number into 5.7. We don't have to keep the 0. 0.57, when I multiply by 100, that says move it 2 places to the right. So now the number is just plain old 57. 0.57, when I multiply by 1,000, I have to move it 3 places to the right. 1, 2, 3 means add 1 0. So that number is going to be 570. So super easy. That's why I love this section and the next, because all we're doing is moving the decimal places. So in multiplication by powers of 10, move the decimal to the right how should we say that? The same number of times as zeros? Does that make sense? Move the decimal to the right, the same number of times as zeros. I don't know. Without doing the things above, somebody could read that and go, huh? But I think we know what it's talking about. That's kind of hard to explain. Move the decimal to the right the same number of times as zeros in the problem. Okay, so how about we do these 3 and you guys do these 3. And like I said, there's 6 of these on the test. 3 of these and 3 division. Both of them, same process. One you move right, the other one you move left. And it's easy to remember which is which, because multiplication, the number's getting bigger. So you move the decimal places to the right to make the number bigger. In division, we're breaking a number down, so we're making the number smaller. That's why we move left in division. So this one, 2 zeros. So we move the decimal place 2 places. So that number turns into 352. 1 0, so move the decimal place 1 place, and that number turns into 427. 2 zeros, so move the decimal place 2 places, so that would be 231.5. And remember, this only works for 10, 100, 1,000. If that said times 150, you would have to do the actual multiplication. But powers of 10, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, that's all you have to do. Okay, go ahead, shut off the video and do 2, 4, and 6, and then join me back here to check those. Okay, here we have 3 zeros, so we need to move 3 places. 1 after the 0, 2 after the 1, 3 after the 2. So that means that's going to be a whole number. 0, 0, 1, 2 is just the whole number 12, right? Because when we have zeros in front of a whole number, we don't need to write those. This one, 2 decimal places, so move it 2 places to the right since I'm multiplying. So that turns into 713.57, or 713 and 57 hundredths. And last but not least, multiplying by 100, 2 decimal places, so 1, 2. So that looks like 0.005 is going to be your answer. Oops. So 0.005. There we go. And then I just wrote C above here where it says what's the rule for this. We already wrote that above. Okay, everybody ready for division? Same easy stuff. We're just going to be going the other way. So the easiest way to remember, multiplication makes the number larger. That's why you move the decimal place and make the number larger. Division makes things smaller. When you divide 10 by 2, you get 5. And so because you're making it smaller, you're still going to move the decimal the same number of places, but now you're going to move it left because you're dividing. So 3,100 divided by 10, that says move it left 1. So that's where they got the number 310. 3,100 divided by 100 says move it left 2. So that turns into 31.00, which is just 31. Move the decimal place left because it's division 3. So every whole number has its decimal at the end, don't forget. And when we go left 3, 1, 2, 3, that number just turns into 3.100, which is 3.1. So here we take the whole number. You can put your original decimal in if you want for all of these, just to remind you that it starts out there. This says move it 1. The division says right. So when I move it 1 right, I get 403.0, which is 403. Move it 2 to the right, 1, 2, makes it 40.30, or just 40.3. 3 to the left, 1, 2, 3, which would be 4.030, or just 4.03. Don't need the zeros on the end. Not wrong if you put them, but you don't need them. Okay, next 3 are yours, so go ahead and shut off the video and try those on your own, and we'll compare answers in just a bit. Okay, so 1 place to the left. So that turns into 69.2. 2 places to the left. 1, 2, that turns into 6.92. 3 places to the left. 1, 2, 3 turns it into 0.692. So exactly the same thing we did on the last page, except now we're moving to the left. So let's write the same thing we did here, but move left. So in division by powers of 10, move the decimal place to the left. Instead of the right. Right makes it bigger, left makes it smaller. How did I so clumsily write that? The same number of times as zeros. And then we can write C above here again, since we already wrote the rule up there. So in division by powers of 10, move the decimal places to the left, and that would be something that I would highlight there or underline, the same number of times as zeros. So again, let's do the 3 in the left-hand column, and then you can do the 3 in the right-hand column. So divided says go left. 2 places. 1, 2. So there's no number there, so I need to add a 0. So 1, put it in front of the 3, 2, put it in front of the 0. So that's going to be 0.0352. And like I said, there's actually people on the test last semester that did this long division on all of these. Do you know how long that would take to do long division by all of these, when all they had to do was move the decimal place? So divided, left, 1. So 427's a whole number. That means it's decimals at the end. So left 1 makes that 42.7. Left 3. So there's the decimal on the whole number. Left 3, 1, 2, 3. So that would be 2.315. Or 2 and 315 thousandths. Okay, your turn. Go ahead and turn off the video, do those next 3, and we'll compare answers as soon as you're done. Okay, for number 2, division says go left 1 place. So left 1 place puts it in front of the 0, so that'll be 0.0135. Two places left, 1, 2, means add a 0 in front of that, so that will be 0.05371. And 2 places to the left, this is a whole number, so it's decimals at the end. 2 places to the left turns it into 241.53. So I would write a big study above this page and the next page, because there are 6 test questions just from this page and the multiplication page we just did. So study this one. There's 3 division and 3 multiplication on your test, and study this one. Because I feel like if students would have went back and looked at their notes, maybe highlight this too just to draw your attention there, they would have known to study those and wouldn't have done all that work. And most of the people that did division the long way did not get it right. Those are horrendous problems trying to do them by hand. So 6 test questions from those 2 pages. Student page E and student page F. Okay, I think we have time to do, yeah, I think G would be a good place to stop. So we'll go, oh, it's 3 pages long, never mind. Oh dear, yeah, it's 4 pages long. Well, maybe we'll just do the first page then. So now we're going to be doing the same thing we did on the last page, except now it's going to be written as a fraction rather than a division problem. So some fractions are easily written in decimal form. We know this is 0.3 because it has 1 decimal place. We know this would be 0.03 because it has 2 decimal places. And remember how the 3 always goes on the end? And we know this, and we haven't had one like this yet, but it has 2 decimal places, so that means the 2 has to be in front of the decimal, because only 2 of those numbers can go after the decimal because it's hundredths. So sometimes you have to add a 0 to make 2 decimal places, sometimes you have to put some of the numbers in front. So 100 says 2 decimal places only. So count from the back 2, boom. So that's what we're going to practice with here. So remember, count the number of zeros. That's how many decimal places there are. So how about we do the first 3 and you guys do the next 2. So this says 2 decimal places. So that means it's 0.27. Both the 2 and the 7 can go after because we can have 2 decimal places. 1.4, oh, Kim, 145 divided by 10 says 1 decimal place. So that means the 14 must go in front because only one number can be after the decimal. Another one, only 1 decimal place. So that means the 3 goes in front and only the 2 can go after the decimal. And next 2 are yours. So go ahead and turn off the video and do those 2 to the best of your ability and then come back and check them with me. Okay, so hundredths says 2 decimal places. Well, 3 is only one number, so that means I need to put a 0 in front of the 3. Remember, I can't put a 0 after the 3 because then that's 30 100ths. So 0.03 because it needs 2 decimal places. This one needs 3 decimal places and 17 is only 2 numbers. So again, that means you need to add a 0 in front to get your 3 decimal places, 0, 1, 7, because the number always goes at the end. The zeros are added in front of it, and then we place a 0 in front. So again, I had people on these on the test actually do the long division. They did 27 divided by 100 and turned this into a 10-minute problem instead of a 10-second problem. So when you're dividing by 10, 100, 1,000, the number of zeros tells you how many decimal places there will be. And any other numbers go in front. Okay. I think that we can also do the next page. So I'm trying to keep these at 45 minutes since this is a really long section. So let's go ahead and do the next. So we already did this before. This is a review. We did it, I think, the first day of this section, turned fractions into decimals. So we said the key was try to make the denominator 10 or 100 or 1,000. And we can see 5 goes into 10 2 times. So we multiply numerator and denominator by 2. And then that gives us 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times 2 is 10. 1 decimal place turns into 0.6. So our goals are to make the denominator 10, 100, or 1,000. And remember, we also talked about the ones where you can't, where you have to do long division, and that'll be in the next video. So 20 can't be turned into 10, but it can be turned into 100. So 20 goes into 100 5 times because 2 goes into 10 5 times. Remember how I said you can take the 1 0 off of each? So you're really just doing 2 into 10. 2 goes into 10 5 times. And whatever I do to the denominator, I must do that exact same thing to the numerator. So 17 times 5, 35, carry our 3. 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 85 over 100, and now I can very easily turn that into a decimal. 2 decimal places would make it 0.85. 25 also can easily be turned into 100 by multiplying both numerator and denominator by 4, because 25 times 4 is 100. And now we got to do 29 times 4 over here. 36, carry our 3, 8, 9, 10, 11. 30 times 4 is 120, and this would be 4 less. Yep, sounds good. So this tells me 2 decimal places, so that means one of these numbers has to go in front, because I can only have 2 decimal places when it's hundredths. So the 1 stays in front, 1.16. That just means this is bigger than 1. And we learned that in, I think it was the first section of this chapter. When the numerator is larger than the denominator, that means the fraction's larger than 1. So that makes sense that this would be 1 whole and some. Okay, 4 can't be turned into 10, but it can be turned into 100. 4 times 25, 4 quarters makes $1. So this would be over 100. And 25 times 7, I think in quarters. 4 quarters is $1, and 3 more quarters is $1.75. So this is 175. And if you don't believe me, you can come over here and do that yourself as well. 35, carry your 3, 14, 15, 16, 17. So anytime I see 25, I think quarters. 7 quarters is $1.75. Okay, larger than 1 again. So we know there's going to be a whole number out in front because there can only be 2 decimal places. So 1.75. And now it's time for you to practice. So go ahead and turn off the video and practice these last 2, and then we'll end our session here. So the last couple pages will be on the last video. Okay, 50 very easily turns into 100 by multiplying it by 2. So 50 times 2 is 100. 47 times 2 is 1494, I believe. 47 times 2, 14, carry your 1, 8, 9. Yep. 2 decimal places makes it 0.94. Sweet. And then last but not least, we have 7/5. Oh, this one's nice. We can turn this one into 10. We don't have to worry about 100. So this one, and you could turn it into 100 if you didn't recognize it went into 10. And so this would be 14 over 10 when we multiply them both by 2. This says only 1 decimal place, and I can see this number's larger than 1. So it's going to be the whole number 1 and then 0.4. So 1 4/10 is how we would read that. 1 decimal place. Okay, that's a good place to stop, and we'll pick up on the long division in your next video. So see you then.